think we can start. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this webinar, this live webinar actually, on 2020 Design Live, and see what's new and improved with the product. Today with us, we have Vanessa de Coca, who is our Global Training Manager, and you have, of course, myself, Santiago Morales, and I'm the Product Manager of 2020 Design Live. All right, so let's get started. Of course, we'll be sending out an email with a link to this recording. So if you need to review it at your time or at your pace, you can do so whenever you'll get this link. All right, so let's go ahead and dive into the subject, locking of items. So this is a long-awaited functionality that have been requested by a lot of our designers, the capability to lock certain items in place. So for this demonstration, let me go right into 2020 design and show you a bit the reason why locking items could be beneficial for you guys. Most of the time, whenever you're drawing your walls, doors, or windows for a room, you would rarely go back and edit them whenever you place your cabinets or move your cabinets around or move your moldings around. And one of the problems that would come up is that you would mistakenly drag a wall out of place or a window out of place. And if you did not notice, it might screw up your program or your project later on down the course of your project. So we've introduced this capability that when you at any one point you want to lock these items in place, you can just simply click the lock button on the Home tab. So here's 2020 Design Live. Here is my Home tab. And right here, you might notice these new two buttons that I have now present. The locking, which actually does the action of locking these items in place, and the lock settings, which is, if I open it up, the categories of items that you like to lock in place. By default, we suggest the doors, obstacles, walls, and windows. So these are selected by default. And if I would go ahead and press lock, now my walls that I have on my floor plan and on my elevation are locked. My doors as well and my windows. So I cannot select them with my left mouse button. So I cannot move them out of place. Move this back. So I can go ahead and play with my cabinets, my moldings. I can move these around without any problem, without running into the problem of selecting these architectural items. Another good benefit for this locking mechanism, if I go back to the locking settings, is that you're also able to lock and unlock 2D lines and shape, dimensions, notes, symbols. Why is that? Well, if you're used to placing notes and symbols, you might have noticed that once you've placed them, they take a lot of attention. So it's hard to select certain items that are nearby these items. So they get a lot of priority in terms of selection. So if you lock these in place, now you can easily select your cabinets that are underneath or nearby those line, circle, or arcs, or any notes that you might have selected to be locked as well. So I think you'll find this very beneficial as you go forward and design your projects. Let's go back.
Hey, Santiago, quick question. What version did lock items come out in?
That's a good question. If I can remember, well, I think it came out in 13.3.
That sounds about right. Yeah, so I had a couple people say they couldn't find that in their toolbar. So there's a chance you might not be on the most current version of 2020 design. So definitely take a look on 2020 account.
And to validate which version you have, you can go into the help bar and the about button, and you have this version laid out right here. I currently have the latest version installed. The one that's available for you guys is 13.4.0.83, and I have additional functionality that comes with this version as well, which we'll touch base in a bit later.
Awesome. And hey, one more question on locking. Can you lock dimensions?
Yes. I go back to my lock settings. We also have the dimensions. So if I select this, I can no longer select them with the left button click. Okay, so it's just impeding the selection of these items with the left button. If you really want to select these lock items, either you unlock them, or you can simply right-click and select that item to be moved or or edited. Okay. Going back to the presentation. The next item I like to talk about is a time tracker. This is also a functionality that was requested for a long time from our users, the capability to track the time spent on a given project. So if you want to look for the time tracker, it's under the presentation. You have this time tracker button. If you click on it, you have all the different sessions that were used to create this project. These sessions are all categorized, and they have a column for the start of the session, the end of the session, the duration, the user who actually made the modification for this specific session, and you even have an area where you could put your input or comment. So you can keep track of what type of work you were doing during that session. All of these fields are editable. So if you think you want to go back and modify some of these session timeframes, maybe I haven't spent 7 hours here. Although I left my design in idle, I actually spend more than only 5 hours, and you can edit this duration time here. The end goal, of course, is to have a total duration time for your project, which you can use for any types of purposes, for billing purposes, or to better estimate future projects or other products that are similar to your current projects. Right? Cool. Next one down, Easy Render. Easy Render is a rendering engine that we've I think launched last year, and it's getting a lot of visibility within their customers and a lot of great feedback. We've come a long way throughout the different iteration in trying to improving the light behavior, the behavior of shadows, the improvement of controls for lights as well for the end users. It's all some of these stuff that we've done with Easy Render. For instance, what we have on the screen is something that was submitted by a user of 2020 Design Live for one of our competitions that we did a couple months ago. So as you scroll this, these are some of the designs that were done with Easy Render that can be achieved today with your version of 2020 Design Live. Yeah. So as we continue to develop Easy Render and improve on it, we've introduced new capabilities. Some of you might be familiar with texture with edges, which was a popular capability for legacy rendering engine. Now it's provided with Easy Render as well. We've also introduced a bokeh effect, which is also called the focus effect. We can produce very good renderings and giving you the wow factor when you want to put something in focus. Yeah, we also introduced the concept of artificial lights. So let me go back to 2020 design, bring in a rendering window. Here under scenes, we have 3 easy controls for lightings. We have the artificial lights, which is an array of light right along the walls of your room that are placed automatically. So this is a very easy way to light up a room. It's more of a showcase environment room, which does a very good result in lighting up your whole scene. But if you're looking for something that's more realistic, I recommend using the natural light, which is actually the light that actually comes in from windows and doors and hallways. And you also have the control for user add light. So these are any additional light that you would place manually on your project, such as lamps or spotlights, spot recess light. You can control the intensity through the user added slider. Cool. Another addition that we've done recently is a control for the sunlight intensity. So through this slider, you can reduce or increase the intensity of the sun coming in from your window. Okay. Any questions on specific on Easy Render?
There was a good question about rendering white. Do you want to go back and highlight maybe like the pick white point option or the brightness, some of the effects?
Yeah, thanks. Some of you might have noticed we have a whole new toolbar here. For those of you who are not familiar with Design Live, which allows you access to different effects. So if you want to provide different effects to your renderings, these are post-processing effects that instantaneously change the behavior of your image. What we're referring to a bit earlier is the concept of pick white point and the pick white black point. So in this case, if I want to make sure that a specific cabinet appears white, I can select the pick white point. And what it does is my cursor now becomes a crosshair. And when I click on a cabinet that's supposed to be white, it referenced that pixel to be white and rebalance my entire image accordingly. You have to be careful with this pick white point, because if you put on an item that's a bit too gray, you might have some items to be a bit more washed out. So if in this case, if I select this cabinet, you'll see now this cabinet is extremely white and might have some overwash effect on some items that are overexposed. So this is the utilization of the pick white point. Additional controls, we have the brightness, the contrast, the shadow highlights, color temperature, saturation. And with these controls, you can easily do, for example, black and white rendering, which is something that I like to do as well, if I want to limit the concept of what I want to present to my customers as well. Cool. Aha, new windows. Yeah, this is something that we were introduced in, I think, 13.2. It wasn't widely made aware, but I think it's of importance for you guys that are looking for newest way to add windows into 2020 design with additional controls for these windows. So where are these windows? In the room catalog. So for those of you who are familiar with the local browser, you select the room catalog. And in the room catalog, you navigate to Windows, Windows, PVC White. And under all these categories, we have added additional windows with additional controls. I have added one of these windows here in my program. So if I go ahead and select its attributes, you're going to see some of the additional controls that are accessible through these windows. Under the variable tabs of the attributes, I have these two additional controls, which are the frame style wizard and the mullion star wizard. If I draw your attention to the frame style wizard, you can see now that I have a different graphical user interface to select the different styles of my frame. So these are easy controls to change the styles of your frame. And those for you who have been asking to remove the frame, that's possible. If you go into frame type, you select no frame and your window now comes with no frames. Okay, so if you have a chance, have a go at it. You also, as I mentioned, you have the mullion style selector, where you can define the types of mullions that you like to see applied on your windows as well. Cool. Moving on. Multi-point 360 panoramic image. Yes, this is a functionality that we've introduced in version 13.0. In 13.4, we've changed the flow to create the 360 panoramic image, because a lot of feedback that was given is that it was a bit cumbersome to set up the different viewpoints, number one, and to actually find the functionality within 2020 Design Live. So going back to 2020, close this right here. And if I go into the presentation tab, you might notice now that I have a new button called 360 Publish. And this is actually the main portal to create this panoramic image. So if I click on the button, I now have this new window that allows me to add new positions to generate 360 panoramic view. So once I've added these new positions, I can simply select the ones that I like to have created into my project of 360 and have it publish. Now, I'm just going to go into a browser where I have had done this for a different project. So in this case, I have my 360 panoramic view. And as you might notice, I have these crosshairs that are accessible here and that I can easily navigate from one point to the other. So this is extremely nice if you want to show to your client different perspective of the project from different locations, so they have a better appreciation of how the room looks like. Cool. How are we doing on questions?
Pretty good, pretty good.
All right. Let's go back to 2020 design. Close out of here into the presentation. Moving on to design live share. So this is a functionality that we've introduced in an earlier version of version 13, and allows you the easy sharing of your perspective with your customers. Okay, so if I go back to 2020 design and bring up a perspective, I have my perspective here, and I have this new button under the rendering tab called Design Live Share. So if you're working with your customers and you're working remotely, here they're at their home or their workspace, and you want to show an image of where you're at because you like to have their feedback, well, you can share a URL with them. And once you share the URL, you can share that image with them. So when you share that image, they have a live view of that image with you. And if you like to make some modification or perhaps look at different perspective of your kitchen, you might want to update a new image for them to review. And this is how you create more collaboration with your end customers easily, straight out of 2020 Design Live. Cool. Awesome. Any questions, additional questions on 2020 Design Live before I hand it off to Vanessa?
There are some really excited people in the chat. There was a question. Do you remember when the multi-point 360 came out?
The multi-point 360 came out in version 13.0, if I recall correctly. But I strongly recommend you download version 13.4. The reason is we've changed dramatically the flow to generate the 360 panoramic view. You'll have, first of all, this button that it's easy access to this functionality, and you'll have the possibility to create additional viewpoint through this added and updated mechanism. It'll be easier to generate the viewpoint and to generate new possibilities and new projects. So when I create new viewpoints, these are added at the list, and I can easily select them as part of my project to generate. So yeah, if your plan is to work with 360 panoramic view, I strongly suggest to download 13.4.
Excellent. Sounds good. Good. Now I'm going to take control, Santiago. So give me just a second to change the presenter over to me. Okay, do you see the training platform, Santiago?
I do.
Wonderful. Okay, I'm just going to steal the show for just a second, guys, because I want to highlight a couple things. There's a couple of questions that I've missed, so I apologize. Frank from support or I will try to tackle those or follow up with you after. But some of them might also be addressed in what I'm about to show you guys too. So I'm back over into 2020 design. And whenever you're in the help menu, if you have a question that comes up or if you've got a new person joining your team, I highly recommend checking out the training button in the help menu. It's the fourth button over. When you click on this, it's going to open up a web page. This web page is new. It's been around for a little while, but I know a lot of people are really excited when they see it because we've evolved some of our training programs into a whole new area and it's a lot easier to use and we've got more training available than we ever have had before. The most exciting part that I'm about to share with you guys is most of the sessions I'm about to share are all free. So they're included in your subscription already. There's no additional cost. Now we do have paid training too. If you need to go through everything, totally fair. But this platform, the very first time you go to it, you will have to register for it. I'm sorry, it's not linked to your 2020 account just yet, but registering for it is just entering your email and creating a password. So when you're out on the site, what's cool is you can either go under the e-learning section and look at some of our free classes at the top. We call these prerequisite courses. Or you could also go to the 2020 resources area. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time in there. Under resources, what we're doing in this section is taking everything that you have access to, whether it's Knowledge Center videos or previous webinars that we've hosted in the past, or anything that we're doing around product updates, or even trade show updates, because we tend to record a lot of our sessions that we're doing at live events too, that you can go back and watch any of these. So I know sometimes it's confusing when we're like, wait, what version was that launched? What version did this come out in? What version was that? You don't have to keep track of that. Just come out here and take a look, and you can see we've got a lot of our version 13 What's New videos out here. As well as some of the sessions that we did for KBIS earlier in the year. They're really great. So you can kind of go through and pick once you find one. It'll tell you a little bit about it, like the topics for that specific thing, and then who actually recorded the session, and then you can enroll into it right away. So these are self-paced. Anything that's free, you have open access to, and you can watch it as many times as you need. Some of the courses that are paid have a few more details to them, like practice files and exercises and quizzes, but the free ones are pretty easy to follow. The other cool thing is when you're in here, you can search by topic. So at the very top of the screen, I can come in here and I can look up time tracker, for example. That was one of the new features that Santiago just talked about. And you can see we've mentioned it in our What's New presentation and a couple other presentations before too. So anytime you're looking for like a specific thing, rendering is a big question in the chat today. So if you have any rendering questions or easy rendering questions, just type in that topic. One other recommendation, I know I have a lot of NKBA or NARI members on the call today. You can also type in, oops, if I can spell, CEU, and it'll pull up anything that has NKBA or NARI CEU credits available. So you can see, you can kind of look through this list. This was actually the last webinar that we just did, and it'll open right up into anything that's CEU approved. So you can enroll in those, super easy. Now, like I said, if you have a growing team or you have some new designers on your team, you might be more interested in sending them to a course. You'll see we even have a few on location courses. If you don't see something near you, that's fine. Do me a favor and just come in here and you can vote for our next location as well. So although we've got a few cities coming up, we're always adding to that. So if you have any questions, definitely let us know, but don't hesitate to take advantage of the training platform. It has tons and tons of content out there that you already have access to. So let me know if you have any questions, and I'm going to pass it back to Santiago.
Yes, very nice. Cool. So yeah, I was looking a bit on the questions that were on the session here on the webinar. Some people noticed that I was using 13.4 and they were on 13.3. Why can I update automatically to the latest version? Yes, there's always a bit of a duration phase before we enable the version. So unfortunately, lately that functionality was not enabled. We had an issue with it, but in the next 1 or 2 weeks, we'll be enabling that functionality. So whenever you do a check for update, actually at the beginning of the launch of 2020 design soon, it will actually ask you if you want to update to the latest version. So that's coming up in a few weeks. But if you're eager to try 13.4, you simply need to go to 2020 account and download that version from our web service and update your current version. Another question that I've seen is, do I need to install my catalogs? The question is yes and no. If you're coming for a version earlier than version 13, yes, you'll need to reinstall your version. If you already have version 13, you can just simply update to this version, do a quick install, and you will keep all your catalogs that you all previously installed on your machine. If you're looking to migrate your catalogs that were on version 12 to version 13, we have a mechanism to do that. So that's accessible through the Knowledge Base Center. And if you have any questions, we can surely provide you a link to it. Any other questions? I'm trying to browse as I speak. Is there anything that you have picked up? Vanessa, let me know. Some people asking, how do I place a viewpoint for my 360 panoramic view? I can show you, but please bear in mind that this is specific to 13.4. So again, if I open up the 360 publish view, if I want to add a new one here in 13.4, I can simply press the add button. This will bring up this view, and I can add a different viewpoint location.
Santiago, I think I ruined your presentation. I think you have to share again.
Oh, yes, my bad. Show my screen. Yes.
Beautiful.
Let me start that over. So specific to 13.4, I press on the 360 publish 360 and brings up this window. If I want to add a different viewpoint, I simply click on the add button. This brings up a specific panoramic view window where I can set a new location for my viewpoint position. And when I enter this location, I can simply type in the name of that location that I like to give it. Location 1. And if I press Save View, this location will appear here and it can be selected with these ones if I want to create a project that contains 3 specific positions. Yep, so fairly straightforward and easy. And I think you'll appreciate this new control. Any other questions, Vanessa, by any chance?
Yes, a really good question. I've had a few questions about SketchUp. Can you remind us what version that is working in?
Yes, good question. I forgot to mention 13.4 supports all the latest model from SketchUp. So even up to 2022. So again, just like previously, if you go under items and click on SketchUp, you'll have access to the Trimble 3D warehouse, and you'll be able to download any models again from SketchUp. So just like you were able to do previously. Good question. Thanks for bringing it up.
These are looking good. There are a few questions about like upgrading or downloading the latest version or some challenges. I definitely encourage you guys to reach out to support anytime. Maybe I'll put this in the chat window. You can call support. We also have a chat option and we have an email for support. So sometimes it's just a little bit easier if they can look at your specific installation or get you pointed in the right direction if you have any trouble.
Yeah, so while we're on the subject and we're together, if you go to 2020 account, you go, of course, you start by going by 2020spaces.com, go to 2020 account. Those are you that are not familiar to get the versions of 2020 design on our web server. You log in 2020 account. As soon as it is, I'll bring you to the right location. My server is busy at this time. There it is. So under downloads and catalogs, you have all the download versions updates. So you can look for this version, which is the version that I currently have installed. So if you select this, you can simply click on this link and it will download it for you. Once it's downloaded, you just simply need to start and kick off the installation. Pretty straightforward. That's if you're eager to insert 13.4, but like I've mentioned, in a week or two, we'll enable the automatic updates. So you'll be able to automatically download it through 2020 Design Live directly.
Oh, I just saw a really good question I haven't been asked yet. Is there any way to delete unwanted catalogs from the cloud browser? Maybe show how to favorite the good ones that they want?
Yes, yes, I can. Oh, there it is. If I go to browse, So this is, for those of you who are not familiar, this is the cloud browser. For me, it's right beside the local browser, so it's one of these two tabs. When I come into the cloud browser, the first list of filtering is a selection of catalogs. So here are all my catalogs. In this case, they're all, I'm in a limited version of 2020 Design Live. I have Design Live Foundation here on this post. But if I'm looking to only see favorite catalogs, I can select which catalog I want to see, or I can select which catalog or items I want to select as favorite. So let's say I want to select these items, and now I can navigate through these specific table of content. And better yet, I can define the favorite for that item. Where? Let me double check. I think I have an, I'm not sure why I don't see it anymore. I'm doing something wrong. Do you remember, Vanessa?
Uh-oh, what did we do here?
I don't know. Something's changed.
Let me see if it's on mine.
Yeah, I think they're working with this functionality.
That's funny. I'm going to blame your version. I'm going to take presenter again because
yes,
it's on mine, but I think I'm on 13.3. Don't tell anybody. Show. There we go. Okay, so I have my cloud browser open here on the side, and when I go and take a look, let me unselect everything. Notice I have a few that have little stars next to them because I had already like pre-selected that those were some of my faves. So if you have a particular, like maybe I would like Bosch, I can just click the little star, and then those will kind of pre-sort to the top for you. Makes it a little bit easier. And then you can either just select one to search through that, or you could select multiple if you're working real fast and bouncing back and forth between multiple lines there, but just makes it a little bit easier. So although there's not a way to delete or remove unwanted catalogs, you can kind of shift your faves to the top.
Yes.
Cool.
Absolutely. And what we're working on also is re-improving the experience with the cloud browser and selection of items. So in a couple of releases, you'll see a lot of modifications and accessibility and capability, like you just mentioned, will be accessible through the cloud browser, and you'll be able to filter out certain catalogs you never use, for instance, or hide them or remove them from your view. So that's coming. It's in the works.
Super. So I don't know if you guys heard a theme today that a lot of the things that Santiago pointed out or talked about what's coming, many of them were by feature request. So if you guys ever have anything, our support team is always filtering ideas to us. You can also reach out to us anytime. I've sent a few of you guys the training email, so because you had questions about like rendering or something specific, so definitely don't hesitate to contact me at residential.training@2020spaces.com. And then probably final note, just a reminder, we did record today. So if you missed that, we will send you a recording and you can come back and rewatch. But now that you saw the training platform, also know we'll be posting this in the training platform as well after next week. So you always have access to all of our updates moving forward. You can stay on top of the latest versions. Did you have any last topics that you wanted to wrap up with today, Santiago?
No, I think we've covered pretty much everything I wanted to share with you guys today.
Awesome. Thanks for spending a few minutes with us today. I hope you guys have a great summer, and hopefully we see you before KViz.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks for attending. Bye-bye.